Penn State enters the 2022 season with a few questions, but also lots of excitement. There are a few positions that they need to have sorted out, including the quarterback position. We'll talk about that, what I mean by that in a little bit. But James Franklin has done a great job of keeping Penn State competitive in terms of on the field and in the recruiting trail. And you look at what they have returning this year, this is a team that can compete in the Big Ten East. Now, obviously, Michigan and Ohio State and even Michigan State are probably above them, but this is a team that has the talent, even with some of the losses they sustained to the NFL draft, to compete with the best in the Big Ten. The 10 guys that we'll talk about today play important roles, including one that is arguably the biggest X factor in the Big Ten. Losing a talent like Jahan Dotson is not going to be easy to replace. That's just plain and simple. You'd almost be doing him an injustice by saying he is easier to replace. Now, don't get me wrong. James Franklin, like I said, has been doing a great job of bringing in talent, but no one's Jahan Dotson. However, Parker Washington is a phenomenal option to have returning this year. You look at what his skill set brings to this offense. He already put up over 800 yards to help Sean Clifford as a passer, and now he returns. And there's some talent around him that should, keep everything going as well as it was before. And this is a team that should be able to pass the ball with some ease. And I think that now Clifford's entering another year with Washington after last year. Now they created some chemistry. Washington is kind of learning, or he has learned, I should say, from Dotson, kind of the intricacies of route running and working in the slot, being able to make some pretty acrobatic catches himself. And that should be something that Penn State fans are really excited about when it comes to this year. Now, we talked about Sean Clifford, and honestly, he is the biggest X factor because we don't really know what he's going to do this year. Can he take another step forward? That's going to be the biggest question. We've seen some flashes from him, and I think now that he has a coordinator, again, returning for the first time in his career, it's going to provide him some stability, some familiarity with what he's doing and with what he's looking for in terms of reads. And I really like that Sean Clifford has really kind of ignored the noise around him. Obviously, people have been critical of his game, critical of the decisions that he makes, and he's just tuned them out and continue to do what he can do. Now, obviously, you'd like to see him play better and more consistent, but I think that he's headed in the right direction. So he threw over 3,000 yards last year with 21 touchdowns, and if he can take a step forward, this offense really reaches new heights. Penn State lost a lot of talent at linebacker. However, I really like what Curtis Jacobs brings to this defense. I think that he is going to be the next star for this defense at linebacker. And really, I'm not trying to diminish the role that the guys that left played, but Curtis Jacobs is, I think, a natural playmaker who's going to fill their shoes and just be the next dude for this defense. You look at the talent they have behind him and even in front of him, that says a lot because there's some really good talent returning to this Nittany Lions defense this year. And I think that Curtis Jacobs could stand above them all when it's all said and done. Ji'Ayir Brown is another guy that I think that is going to be near the top in terms of best players. And the safety does a little bit of everything for Penn State. And he's more of the ball hawk that is going to be able to make plays when the ball's in the air. And I think that's going to be huge, especially when you face a team like Ohio State. Now, they're not the only team that you're going to face where you have to shut down receivers, but when you look at who they face on a consistent basis, Ohio State is obviously the number one team you're going to circle and you're going to focus on. And having a guy like Brown back is huge. And I can't speak enough to what his skill set means for this defense. And really, when you talk about NFL talent, he's going to be high on the list in terms of who comes out of Penn State and has the attention of scouts at the next level. An underrated addition in the transfer portal was the Western Kentucky wide receiver Mitchell Tinsley. Now, there's questions about can he translate his game from Conference USA in an air raid offense to more of the spread offense that Penn State is going to run. They're not going to throw the ball 40, 50, 60 times a game. So can he be efficient with his catches? Last year, he had over 1,400 yards with 14 touchdowns. He averaged 16.1 yards per catch. That was in a system that was pass heavy. Penn State is going to try to be a little bit more balanced And that's the question becomes, can he be efficient? Like I said, I like that they added him because Parker Washington is going to get a lot of attention, which is going to open up the field for the tight ends and for Tinsley, and it's going to be fun to see what they can do with the talent that they have, and with a guy like Tinsley maybe under the middle or maybe going deep. Whatever they're going to do, Parker Washington is going to command a lot of attention, and that leaves plenty of room for Tinsley to operate. A guy who's potentially going to rise up in terms of talent on the Penn State roster is Joey Porter Jr. I think he's getting a lot of attention in the college football world. I think that his name garners plenty of attention as well. And that's something that he's going to use to his benefit. He's going to figure out how to not only translate his recognition to the field, but he's going to take a step forward because we saw some really exciting flashes from him last year. And if he can improve upon that, this defense is going to be pretty scary, especially in the secondary. Keyvone Lee now gets the backfield, not really to himself, because there's a guy in Nick Singleton who's coming in and is getting a lot of hype coming into the Penn State program. But Keyvone Lee is going to be the starter, at least at the beginning of the year. He's a veteran who's got the experience and knows exactly what to expect, whereas Singleton is coming fresh into a program that he hasn't been in before. Now, the talent with Singleton is obviously going to be there, but Lee is going to play a huge role in his development as well. So that's why he's on this list. Singleton is going to be the future at running back, for at least what it sounds like. We'll see what happens on the field. I'm very excited to see what he can do. But Keyvone Lee is shown that he can be a reliable back. Obviously shared the backfield with Noah Cain last year, and then when Cain was done, it was Lee's backfield. Maybe a couple guys rotating in this year. So that's something to keep an eye on. But he is someone who, maybe if he doesn't produce at a high level, he's still going to be an important piece of this offense because he's going to mentor the guys behind them, show it how it gets done, and Singleton's going to learn a lot, especially. A reason to be excited, maybe not the most important reason, but a big reason, is having Juice Scruggs back for Sean Clifford. I think having a center back really gives a quarterback some peace, if you will, and at least some quietness in terms of what to worry about. You don't have to worry about whether or not the snap is going to get to you. You don't have to worry about if your center knows the calls, knows what he's doing, and that's going to be huge. Now, a lot of it's still going to be on Clifford, but a guy like Juice Scruggs is an experienced player, and with a couple of guys needed to be replaced on the offensive line, a guy like him is going to help that transition and really keep Sean Clifford comfortable, which is a very important piece of that offense. PJ Mustapha lost quite a bit of the season last year due to injury, and it's going to be fun to see him back. He's a veteran who knows how to play at a high level, and he knows how to get his guys around him to play well. And it'll be fun to see him back in the defense, back to seeing what he can do when he's competing in the Big Ten and Big Ten competition. And honestly, with what Penn State has returning behind him at linebacker and in the secondary, he's going to need to step up, with the defensive line being maybe the biggest question, but there's a lot to be excited about, and having a guy like Mustapha back provides some stability on that defensive line. We've talked about two guys in the secondary already, so why not add a third? Jonathan Sutherland is another great option for this defense. Everybody's going to be focusing on Ji'Ayir Brown and Joey Porter Jr., so Sutherland probably benefits more from less attention on him. Now, he is still a very talented player, so that's not like an insult on him. This is a very talented player who knows how to make plays, and it probably benefits from teams, honestly, probably test him a little bit more, because they might avoid Brown's side, they might avoid Joey Porter's side, and that leaves teams to focus on players like Sutherland and see if he's ready for the task. And honestly, I think he will be, and that's a big reason to be excited about Penn State this year, is really that defense. The offense has some pieces too. The defense is going to be solid, I think, and it's going to need to be, because again, Michigan State, and Ohio State are going to be good. Maryland is believing that they can be a contender this year. You have to fend off so many teams in the Big Ten East. It's not an easy division to compete in, and you have to be up to the task. Penn State has the talent returning. They have the quarterback that can bring them there, and the talent at receiver is going to be fun. And it's a defense that's going to fly around to the football. And even though they lost some speed, they returned plenty of it to make them a dangerous team in the Big Ten East.